And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince, and I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. And Stevie D, it is here. The culmination of 17 weeks, wild card, divisional, and championship games lead us to this big week coming up that I affectionately call the exhibition game.
You're awful monotone this week about it.
Well, hold on. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to.
But, it's been a few weeks. I thought you're fully healed by now.
No. I won't be healed until like week 4 of 2022 season.
Okay.
I need a little bit, but I'm at a much better place. I think we are at a solid 7, but I'm not on a strong foundation for that 7, right? I can always go back. Yeah, I was out somewhere today, literally out somewhere today, always rocking, the Bills shirt here, always rocking the Bills shirt. And the guy goes, he too was a Bills fan, mind you. I tell you, we're all over the place. He goes, that's so much agony and so much pain. Listen, I need positivity at this point, right? I got the 7. I just need the positivity. I don't need you to recite about what happened. I don't need to see the number 13, which I've kind of taken away. I told you, when I start counting 10, 11, 12, 14, there is no 13.
So you're like hotels that don't have a 13th floor.
Gone. Completely gone, right? And so, if I owe you something that's between 12 and 14, I'm either paying you 12 or paying you 14, right? I'll pay you $12.99.
Whoa, short me.
I'll pay you $14.01.
All right.
But nowhere in between. But it is time for the exhibition game. I may be a little monotone. I am. Man, I thought there would be America's team, the real America's team, representing the AFC. But we didn't make it. But we
didn't make it.
Stevie, there's just so much that's going on. Let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
So, you had the Pro Bowl.
The what?
Yeah, well, depending on what you want to call it, right? They want to call it the Pro Bowl. It could be the two-hand touch. It could be flag football. It could be a Friday walkthrough. That's what I told you guys it looked like was a Friday walkthrough. I feel bad for the fans, okay? And I'll tell you why. First of all, I think everybody has come to an agreement that the Pro Bowl has been on a sharp decline, especially the last 10 years, right? I remember when guys hit Sean Taylor.
You're a punter. Oh, my God.
It was Brian Mormon got laid out right by Sean Taylor. I remember, right? And all the years prior, it actually meant something for these guys. But what they did on the field, first of all, they allowed these fans in these economic times to spend that kind of money to go to that event to watch guys just walk around. I didn't watch the game from the opening kickoff. I happened to flip it on. And I had already said, I'm not watching this game, right? Just because of what I saw the years prior. Not expecting what I was going to see when I turned it on. But literally, I turned it on, and second or third play, I'm watching the offensive and defensive lines. They snap the ball. They just stand up. And and it just so happened to be a running play at the time, which was even worse, right? It wasn't full speed. It was like, okay, and it jog maybe? I don't. Jog may have been too fast.
I sent you a video that my son sent me, right? And it's like, it was a run play, and he was not down. And the whistle blew, and the play was over. It was just a run to the left, off the right tackle, and he gets through the hole, and they touch each other, and then The whistle blows.
Oh, whoa! You're exaggerating when you hold fists like
Well,
this.
yeah,
They didn't hold
I
up.
don't even know what the call. I don't open-handed. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's so bizarre. And
It was
then
a
the whistle
hug
blows.
fest. It was a hug fest.
Yeah,
Hey, come here.
it was so weird. I'm like, well, the guy's not down. He could have ran for a touchdown. I don't understand him. I'm really confused. But again, I didn't watch any of it other than that one highlight that my son sent me. I refuse to watch it. It's that bad.
Now, I will say, in all fairness, I understand, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I understand. Football played the way it's supposed to be is a very violent sport, right? They talk about, some of the hits are like going through a car wreck. I get that, right? And I also get that not only are these guys trying to heal their bodies from an exhausting 17-week or 18, 19, 20, depending on how far you made it in the playoffs, but you have some guys that are impending free agents for the next year, right? And so they don't want to have just some sort of disastrous type injury.
Mm-hmm.
We remember the kid that played for the Patriots, but remember the kid that was the running back
on the beach, the running back,
and that was during the Pro Bowl week, and he was done, career over with, right? So I get that these guys, and actually, funny enough, if you think about it, ever since that incident, it has gone downhill. Oh. Live from St. C. If you don't know what St. C is, Stevie D, that's St. Catharines. St. Catharines, Ontario. Oh, L is in the house. But ever since that particular incident, you've kind of seen the participation level go down. You have seen the effort go down. And again, I get it from the player's perspective, right? You're messing with my money for something that doesn't matter, right? But I look on the opposite end. You have these fans that are paying good money, right? Yeah. Trying to have their kids have a great experience, and they're watching that, right?
I mean, I'd feel better if I was in Hawaii watching that, but watching it here from the States, yeah, not so much.
Yeah,
it's a family show.
Yeah, it is. It is. We have yet to enter into OWS After Dark, but it's funny. Dana, who's a freaking viewer, I tell him he's in charge of marketing, and L is in charge of the OWS After Dark marketing. Right? We got our marketing department set.
Okay, so Lamar is in charge of the investors when we need the investors to take them out for a good time.
For sure. Well, right. Dana may be in charge of that one too now. Guys, don't hold back. We're all family, right? We need to share. Stevie D, one more thing before we leave the Pro Bowl is what took place Saturday night before the Pro Bowl. And that was Alvin Kamara getting into a fight. There's so many things wrong with this, right? First of all, I have yet to see the video, but the accounts of what took place, they were standing at an elevator. They were with a guy somehow earlier in the club or at the bar. Somebody was talking to somebody's girl or to a girl or whatever happened. Then we get to the elevator. Somebody is talking, and I don't know who, right? Somebody's talking. This guy gets pushed. As he gets pushed, he goes back and then punches and kicks and everything follow, right? Kamara is reportedly throwing 8 to 10 punches at this guy, right? In the face, kicking this guy. Other people are kicking, and the guy ends up in the hospital, broken orbital bone. That's why the initial report said serious bodily injury, right? Bad situation, right? Bad situation. Kamara should have learned his lesson, right? We've had incidents before where you're with your group, your crew, however you want to call it, right? And you have to realize that let them be part of it, right? You stay out of it. But he jumped up in the middle of it. But here's where it really goes sideways. Remember, this happened the night before the Pro Bowl, right? Just like we were talking.
Mm-hmm.
Alvin Kamara suited up the day of the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Supposedly, the NFL knew about this arrest Saturday night, not
That's
Sunday
right.
morning, Saturday night.
And he suits up and he plays. And then it's after the game that the Las Vegas Police Department come to the locker room at the stadium to take him away for questioning.
I want to know why we, JQ Public or whatever you want to call it, don't get the same. Let me work my shift. I got to go work my shift, and then you can come get me.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. See, these stories, I can't speak of everything that you do. But this is the annual pilgrimage for Lamar to the Super Bowl. Annual. Started in Super Bowl 28, and I believe every year thereafter he has been a faithful attendee. I'm sorry, Stevie D. Back to Mr. Kamara.
But if you and I were to get arrested,
oh sure,
I just got to go to work. You can take me when my job's over. No, that's not happening. Why that? And this was, when you think about it, on a battery case, that's pretty severe. You put somebody in the hospital, and you get that kind of, man, good to be the king.
Yeah. Well, a dethroned king. But so here are the questions, right? And I'm not that I want to see the violence and the gore and everything else, but in my mind, what instantly hit was Ray Rice. Instantly, Ray Rice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Both running backs, both at a hotel, both at the elevator, and both now Ray was against his girlfriend, right? And there's not condoning any of that. And this was against a guy. Now, is the penalty going to be the same because of the violence? Is it going to be less because it's a man versus a woman, right?
Well, don't football players get into a lot of brawls during the course of the year, and it's not treated the same, right?
Yeah, but we don't have people ending up in a hospital for days on end with a broken orbital socket. We're talking shit now. What was it? Was it Alvin Kamara that
Gorilla Glue? You're right.
Was it Alvin Kamara that did all that damage? He was part of it. I know that. We know Ray Rice, what he did, right? Whether it be the pulling of the hair and dragging around or anything else like that. But it's the standards for the NFL. Where do they lie? What's the NFL going to do? And to your point, we've already seen their first step into this by allowing him to play. And allowing him to play in a meaningless game, right? In a meaningless game. And so Lamar, he says, if no video, no proof. But there is video.
Yeah, there is. It just hasn't been released to the public.
Right? There is video.
The police came out and said that they have him on the video doing the damage.
And it's in a casino hotel. There's video. Right? They videotape you from blocks away saying this guy's going to come in this casino and and just start dropping. Dude,
it's that Vegas atmosphere. I don't know what's in the air out there. And this is the fourth person this year. I think there was outside of the two Raiders, I think there was another player. Was there driving the car? I don't know.
There's been a ton of things that are going on, right? Ruggs and everybody else.
And Arnett.
Yeah.
Not. So I thought there was one more, but
I mean, just to put a bow on this Pro Bowl was just an absolute joke, right? It was just disastrous, and let the guys get the honor of being a Pro Bowl selectee. and call it a day. Right?
Honestly, they shouldn't even get a Pro Bowl designation in it. You have to make the first team All Pro.
Yeah, and
Right?
let that
Call it that. Let's go.
let that be the award
Yep.
ceremony. If they want to have a skills competition, I'm okay with that. You just have to be careful, right, Stefan? I love you jumping on the table, but I don't really need you jumping on the table. Right? Don't need you doing that. But maybe you do that in front of the fans. People will like to see that. We saw when they had the fastest man's. How does Micah Parsons beat Tyreek Hill? Right? Again, if you're not going to try, don't be in it. Right? So maybe we move it. Right? Move it a few months later. You might have the guys from the exhibition game even participate.
Yeah, you just can't have it. I don't even think you can move it out months later.
Hey, Terry.
I don't even think you can move it out months later because it's not going to mean anything because you're now into really the next season.
Sure.
Football is the one sport that it's like even like hockey. You can still play hockey without checking, and you can have a free for all. Football is the one sport. It just looks awkward. It's because you're not tackling and.
What 7 interceptions, 5 fumbles?
Yeah.
Over. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So we're done. We're done with that one, Stevie D. But it's not like we had a dull week, right? Not like we had a dull week. The state of the NFL, I've seen some people call it a dumpster fire, right? The dumpster fire probably is with the Washington Commanders now.
Well, if you want to be like that one guy on Capitol Hill that says they're the Washington Redskins, they're always going to be the Washington Redskins. I'm always going to call them the Washington Redskins. I was like, go, man. That's what I'm talking about.
I heard that guy.
Yeah.
But when we talk about the state of the NFL, I don't know where to start, right? The one thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it early, and I'm going to say it loud, Roger Goodell will be the scapegoat for everything that happens, right? Not that they're looking for somebody to blame because he has his hands in a whole lot of the things that have gone sideways. Yeah. But if somebody's going to go down, it will be Roger Goodell. Go ahead. It looks like you're ready.
The guy from Carolina, Richardson, had to sell the team on the Goodell's watch. Snyder should be forced to sell the team. That is what's going on in Washington, what they've been allowed to do. And I'm going to call it, I don't know what the right word is, I'll call it collusion between the NFL and the Washington football team to sign a document to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That just tells you the NFL doesn't want to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to me the biggest telling sign that they went into that agreement to protect the shield rather than really trying to find the truth. And this independent investigation that the NFL is going to do is a joke. Right? If you really want to find the truth, somebody from the outside with no ties to the NFL at all.
So that's part of the conversation right now is that they are actually headed to that point where there is going to be an independent investigation that takes place. I don't know.
But the NFL is overseeing that investigation. They're the one who's appointing it. Like
no. From what I heard, there's somebody outside because the NFL has, I believe it is a woman, and I don't remember her name, but that is their quote unquote independent investigator. But I heard that another one has been appointed and not tied to the NFL.
Okay, so they don't have a paycheck or anything from the NFL.
That's what I heard. Okay. And it's because everything is so dirty, right? Who do you trust, right? And if you look at the laundry list, and this is just Goodell's watch, and think about this. I equate this to a situation where you go back years and years and years ago, right? And you have somebody who comes up with a novel idea concept, maybe a restaurant, right? And they put their blood, sweat, and tears into building this restaurant. And it starts to take off a little bit, and they start to get a following, right? And they have their kids, and they bring their kids in as an apprentice, right? And they help to grow, and they bring newer ideas, right? Newer of the day, plus keep the same basic concepts and the same recipes, and the restaurant gets bigger, right?
Yep.
And now they're really making substantial amounts of money, right? And then they have a kid, the Silver Spoon kid, right? Who could care less. He just wants to get into the money, right? When are you going to die so I can inherit all of this money? When am I getting my trust fund, right? And then they pass that business on to him. He takes control of that business. And we see it time after time. That business is done within 10 years, right? Because now you have somebody who did not pay attention, who did not care. They were just only happy with that end result, right? Well, the reason why I give you that scenario is because I equate that to, and it really goes before him, right? But those are the Tagliabue years, right? Those are the Roselle years, right? Where Roselle actually brought the AFL and NFL together, right? Able to grow the brand of having what he called, and I'll do it this time, what he called the Super Bowl, right? and only that time. And then, he kind of passed that baton, over to Tagliabue, who then saw greater ways for potential for greater earnings for the league, right? Television contracts, ad revenue, expansion within the league, right? Growing the brand. And we saw it to where it kind of is today. He really was the godfather of what we're looking at, even though if you look at what Roselle had done, if you look, Tagliabue really grew that brand. And then here comes Roger, right? Roger's the Silver Spoon guy, right? That is just in here, inherited this massive commodity, right? And every turn he makes is a wrong turn, right? He buddies up with the owners, right? But he was handpicked by the owners. He doesn't know what's going on. And he's destroyed evidence, right? He's made awful judgments. He almost feels as though he has to get back at some of the players, and I'm talking about the Flakegate. So then he contrives this whole thing to try to get his appeal and his rating up with others, right? You look at what's going on with the Rams and Kroenke and all of that, right? Just a disaster. You look at what's went on with the Raiders, a disaster, right? Each step of the way under Goodell's watch, it has been a disaster.
Think about the officiating woes that he cannot fix that has cost teams a visit to a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Massive mistakes in the playoffs, and then compounds during the regular season. It's awful.
And another one to add on to it is that the NFL purposely stayed away from Vegas. Purposely. Because they knew, right? Vegas has been there. I mean, Vegas is a destination for debauchery for years, right? Decades. And Roselle knew. Tagliabue knew. No, we're staying away from there. I don't care. Gambling was still on the rise, but we're staying away from Vegas. Roger gets in there. Yep, we're getting you a team. You can go there. That is absolute off limits, right? Caution tape, which I think there is caution tape as you go in there, right? Because what do they say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's why there's caution tape in there. But yet you're going to put a franchise in there. And to what we just talked about earlier, you see what happens there.
Yeah.
This is all on Roger's watch. With all that said, right? We had Washington, and I had to grab you. I saw the replay, but I had to grab you. I was like, Stevie D, you got to watch this. You got to watch this.
The right? C-SPAN. Yeah.
So we go to C-SPAN, and you have the Congressional Hearings, right? Where you have members or former members from the staff with the Washington football team, Washington Commanders, Washington Redskins, whatever you want to call it, right? Talking about the things that Daniel Snyder wanted them to do. The videos, the pictures, right? The modeling and parading around, right? Demeaning activities, right? Just to make it onto the cheerleading squad, right? They talked about the workplace harassment. These are all things under the watch of Daniel Snyder, who's supposed to be under the watch of Roger Goodell. And to your point, what did you say? They came up with this agreement.
Yep.
Right? This agreement where they're going to work together to try to figure it out. Goodell hasn't figured anything out from day one. Couldn't figure out the tuck rule. Couldn't figure out Spygate. Couldn't figure out the catch, right? He can't figure any of this out. And he's going to go in and solve this, right? We know what kind of owner Snyder is. And he's been raked through the coals left and right. How he's still there, to your point, Jerry Richardson was gone, right? We saw what happened in basketball with the Clippers, right? Gone. All you had to have is a single tape gone.
What's interesting with Snyder is he's hurting the brand, right? He's hurting the brand, right?
Protect the shield.
That the NFL owners as a whole are not voting to force him to sell for hurting the brand, because what he has done there, he's making a mockery, right? There's no, like the one sentence, there's no HR department to go file a complaint. You go to file a complaint, they laugh at you. What organization is that? What other organization that has paychecks that allows that to happen? I don't know. I don't know of one. I'm sure there are companies out there that really don't have an HR department, and it could be a Wild West. But when you're talking about a franchise, a large organization that's making a ton, they're organized, right? They have departments for everything, and you have an HR department that's organized and has policies and procedures and training and all this. And yet in Washington, they just throw it out the window, and it's just like a bunch of yahoos running the team. And I don't know how that is allowed to stay in the league, right? I agree with the ouster of the guy from Carolina, the old man, Richardson, I think his name was, right? The former player. I have no problem with that, right? There was sexual harassment going on over there. You're the owner. It is on your watch. Just like when we say, how do managers or coaches not know steroids are going on, right, in locker rooms? You have the pulse of your locker room. You know what's going on. You just turn away. Just like we hold head coaches accountable, GMs accountable, owners have to be accountable. And when you have that kind of dysfunction from the top down, you're the one responsible. You're the one that should be now forced to sell. And as owners, I would, if I was an owner of a team, I don't want you here. You're ruining the brand. You're going to take us down, right? And for that not happening, what do we always say? We said in the past, it's the good old boys club. You're going to protect your own because they're one of 31 teams or whatever.
But here's the interesting thing, though, Stevie D. When you say you're going to protect your own, at the end of the day, you would figure that the 31 owners would get together and say, what's at jeopardy here, right? The shield, the brand, they have tax-exempt status.
Oh, I'm sure they will talk about that.
They have antitrust. Yeah. And you have this one idiot, and yes, I'm calling Daniel Snyder an idiot. You have this one idiot who feels as though he is owed something by world and by the league, and that he can play with the big boys, but you can't, right? And you see it all the time, right? Guy, again, another silver spoon guy, right? That comes in and feels as though I made it, I'm in with the guys. This is what should happen, right? This isn't 1950s Mad Men, right? You can't do certain things, right? In the world we live in, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, there are certain laws. There are certain things that are in place. You can't just break the law and feel as though you can get away with it. Morally, you shouldn't be doing it, right? And I don't care. And I'm not here to bring politics. This isn't locker room behavior, right? Do what's right, right? Hold people accountable. Hold yourself accountable, and set the example. If Daniel Snyder sets the example, then Bruce, or is it Bruce Allen? Not Bruce Allen. Who was the GM there?
Yeah, it was Bruce Allen.
Bruce Allen maybe follows in line and does what he's supposed to do, and is not sending pictures and text and having email communication with Gruden, right? Maybe other guys down the line aren't doing those things. Maybe the women aren't being harassed. Right, but
it's a line.
You don't set that. Go ahead.
It's a line from I know my favorite movie, Attitude Reflects Leadership. Right, it's from the Remember the Titans. Right, Julius Campbell and Gary Bertier. Right, both linebackers. What does he say? Attitude reflects leadership. And so if your leader acts that way, what do you think you're going to get the rest of the way?
Absolutely.
Your leader sets the tone, and Daniel Snyder is leading romper room, and that's what he's getting. And now he's got a dysfunctional franchise, and honestly, I look at anybody who wants to be there. Why do you want to be? Why do you want to play? Why do you want to work for an organization like that? Ron Rivera, why do you want to stay and work for that organization? Right? Why?
That's a great point. Hey, what value?
And he's a high character guy, right? Ron Rivera's a high character guy, and it surprises me that he would want to stay and work. Now, I think when he was hired, that was all going on, like the investigation. It was maybe when it first started, and he said, he wants to help be part of the solution of changing the franchise. Well, it's 2 or 3 years later, Ron, and it's still there, right? And
not that I'm going to call for you. Yeah, you're the one that has to look yourself in the mirror. If you're standing for yourself, you gotta look around where you're working. It's a cesspool. I call Tennessee the cesspool of the NFL. The Washington Commanders, Washington football team, Washington Redskins, whatever you want to call them. That they're more than a dumpster fire. They are a cesspool. It's toxic. And
toxic, great word, toxic.
Yes. Something has to happen. Somebody's got to go. Multiple people have to go. Whatever happens, something has to happen. But Stevie D, that's just one phase, right? I mean, there's so much that happened, right? So all 9, I like to call it the Brady Bunch, right? Because you remember the Brady Bunch?
Oh, yeah.
And they had the kids on one side, the kids on the other side, the mother, the father, and then Alice right in the middle, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to call this the Brady Bunch, right? We have non-minority head coach on one side, non-minority coach on the other side, non-minority coach on the top, non-minority coach at the bottom. Dare I say?
And then you got Lovey.
Dare I say? Token in the middle.
You got Lovey.
I'm going to call him Token because somehow Lovie Smith emerges as the head coach for the Houston Texans out of nowhere, right?
And you heard the story that McCown was looking like it was going to be his job, and then all of a sudden, Lovie Smith came out of nowhere.
So if we backtrack and try to figure this out, right, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a genius. Stephen Hawking isn't coming in to tell us how to figure this out, right? This is just logic. Remember Matlock, right? Perry Mason.
Yeah. I really didn't watch it that often, but Matlock,
they would figure this out like that, right?
In an hour.
You have a couple coaches that are hired. Then all of a sudden, the Brian Flores lawsuit comes out. A couple other coaches are hired, right? So now, remember, we got 3 and 3, and it only leaves 3 left. And all of a sudden, Brian Flores, who is suing the NFL, right, for his departure or his firing, right, from Miami, is a front runner with McCown, right? Those are the names, right? Lovie Smith, he was the defensive coordinator under Culley. You don't hear about him. Those are the names. All of a sudden, another position gets filled. Miami fills their position, right, with Mike McDaniel. Who knows with Mike McDaniel? Looks like Waldo, right? You know the whole "Where's Waldo" guy? Just put a beanie on him. That's him, all right? So now we're down to 2 positions, right? It's the Saints and it's the Texans.
And Flores was a finalist for the Saints.
Yes, he was. So he's a finalist for both positions or for both teams. And kind of Dennis Allen gets hired, and it leaves one. Right? And then all of a sudden, Flores, we really knew he wasn't going to get the position with the Texans. And McCown, to your point, is the odds-on favorite for this position. And out of the blue, we have to fill in the center square. And here comes Lovie Smith in at the center square. it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why Lovie Smith got the job. I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, my opinion, horrible head coach. Horrible. He was horrible in the NFL. He was horrible in college. He's a great coordinator.
Horrible in college. Horrible in college.
Great coordinator. Great coordinator. Horrible head coach, right? The picture that you get of Lovie Smith on the sideline as a head coach is a look of bewilderment. Like, I just don't know what's going on, right? I'd love to see him be a coordinator. Sometimes you can't take that step. But you were put in that position so that Roger Goodell could say, well, things are happening not as fast as we'd like, because this is a statement, not as fast as we like. We're going to need to re-examine them. But guess what, Brian Flores' lawsuit? Look at our guy, Token. And that's why I call him Token, right? He is the poster boy for the NFL to say, yes, we do hire minority coaches, but you really don't. Right. And you use this man, and Lovie, you allowed yourself to be used for this position. 2 years max.
Yeah.
2 years
and
max.
I feel for Lovie. I feel for Lovie because I'm with you. I don't like him as a head coach. I don't like him for this position. Whoever was getting this job, you're in a whole bunch of trouble. This is a bad franchise right now, and anybody you bring in will not be successful. And now, I don't think Lovie can have a chance to be successful because this organization is in such a downward. I don't even know. I can't even call it downward spiral.
Why do you feel bad for him?
I feel bad for any coach that would have taken that job.
Why? They said
because
yes.
It's that bad of an organization.
They said yes. Byron Leftwich told Shad Khan no.
Yeah.
Hey, take me out.
Yeah. Well, look, there's coaches that like the Cleveland Browns are another example. Why would you go to Cleveland for so many years? Why would you take the head coaching job? Mike Pettin, why would you take it? Why would you take the head job? That's an awful franchise. They were in a bad spot for a long period of time. Why would you take that job? Right? Hugh Jackson, why would you take that job? Right?
Well, we know why you would take it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like when you know a franchise is really bad, you just want to be the head coach again. You want to be it, and you take the job to take it.
The reason why they take that job is because it is so bad, and if they strike lightning in a bottle, they now have elevated themselves past like 20 other coaches because you were able to take this just dormant franchise and bring them to the playoffs. Look at Marone with Jacksonville. That's why he went there. Right?
Where's Marone right now?
The fall is quick. The fall is quick.
You can thank the Jets. You can thank the Jets. I put the Italian curse on him when he went for that 2-point conversion at the end of the game, up by 30-something points. Seriously, Doug Marone? Oh, I'll never forget that.
You got to practice. I need a live situation to practice. That's all that was.
Yeah, I'll give him a live practice.
So
anyway,
Stevie, so we have our 9, right? I don't like the Lovie Smith hiring. I don't like Lovie taking the job. It'll be interesting to see what happens. When you look at the names of these coaches, though, when you look at the names, you have, I told you, Waldo leaving the 49ers as their OC to become the Dolphins head coach. Actually, Mike McDaniel is his name. Then you have, we talked about Lovie, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen, I'm okay with, right? The Sean Payton retirement or leaving the Saints kind of put them in a hole, right? This is a guy that they knew, and it was kind of a promotion from within. Right, I'm okay with that. Doug Peterson, he's got a little bit of pedigree. You don't want to see the recycling of coaches, but he's got a little bit of pedigree and had success recently. Then you get Kevin O'Connell, you get Matt Eberflus, or however you pronounce his name, for the Bears.
Never heard of him.
And you got Nathaniel Hackett, who you've heard the name before, but not really in that tier, right? We're talking about guys. You're talking about guys.
Your father stinks, Hackett. Your father was awful. Awful as an offensive coordinator. I hope you fail out there because your father stunk for the Jets.
We're talking about guys that really, they're new on the radar, right? That's really what they are. These guys are new on the radar. And so then you look at some of the other ones, right? You had the Josh McDaniels and you had the Brian Dable, right? We talked about Brian Dable ad nauseum, but I need to bring Brian Dable back, right? The reason why I want to bring him back, not for the Giants job, but if you remember just 2 years ago, right? Who are the hot coordinators? It was Brian Dable and Eric Bieniemy, right? And the excuse back then was because the Chiefs were making it so far in the playoffs, Eric Bieniemy didn't have the opportunity to interview. That's what they said, right?
Yep.
And then the thing that comes out is, well, it's not just the fact that he didn't have the chance to interview. We're kind of questioning because Andy Reid is this offensive genius and guru that Eric Bieniemy maybe just, standing on the sidelines, just holding on to his pocket, right? Meanwhile, Brian Dable, his stock is rising and falling, right? And especially, a lot of people thought that it had fallen in last year's championship game, right? And now you look, and Brian Dable surpassed Eric Bieniemy. Now, no disrespect, I'm a diehard Bills fan. Love the Bills, love everything about them. But how did his stock rise so much higher than Bieniemy? Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator of a league MVP, right? He was the offensive coordinator of a team that has gone to under his watch, two AFC championship games or three? It may be three. I think after the first one, Nagy left for Chicago. So for three
Right.
AFC championship games, right, he's been the coordinator of. Super Bowl, how dare I say those filthy words, exhibition game.
I knew you would call it the Super
Well,
Bowl.
it's the week. I dare Roger to come after me for saying it. That's the only reason why I'm saying it, Roger. Come get me, baby. Come get me. Give me the cease and desist. But you look at all that Eric Bieniemy has been part of. Dable hasn't had any of that. But yet Dable's stock has risen, and it's almost like Bieniemy's stock has fallen. Can you explain that, Stevie?
No, I have theories, but it's just a theory, right? You can interview, you can be a bad interviewer, right? But when Andy Reid steps up and says, "I don't know how this guy's not hired," and teams should look at him, Andy Reid's got clout in the NFL that you are surprised. Am I surprised? Yes. Brian Dable, to his defense, has 30 plus years in coaching. He has coached under some of the most prolific names in NFL history for coaches, so he has that for him. I don't know outside of Kansas City where Bieniemy falls with coaches and how long he's been coaching, but Dable's got 30 plus years.
But he's got time under Andy Reid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He's
that's
got
right.
time under
Doug
Belichick.
Peterson. But think about it. Doug Peterson was 1 or 2 years in Kansas City, and he was gone to Philly. Matt Nagy, I think, was 1 year as an OC, went to Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. Next man up is Eric Banemy. It's 3 years and counting, and I don't know if he's really got a serious look, at least for a second interview. So that is a little bizarre when you look at the recent history and trends coming out of Kansas City on the Andy Reid. So I give you that. I don't know how people interview, right? And how well that's going or not going. I can't speak to the interview process. It is just kind of odd on face value that he's not a head coach when so many people have come out about him and say he'd make a great head coach. Why isn't he head coach?
Yeah. So, and Stevie D, there's so much more that went on this week. I mean, we could talk about how they rehashed Deflategate, right? Coming back to find that the evidence again was destroyed, right? Why are we destroying evidence? Did we not learn our lesson from Spygate not to destroy evidence, but we destroyed evidence? Coming to find out that really there was nothing wrong there, right? And then this really became a mano battle. And like I said earlier, Stevie D, in my mind, in my opinion, this was Rodgers' way to all fans except for the Patriot fans to say that I'm fair and impartial, and I'll even go after the Patriots. That's all it was, right? Because the lawsuit was frivolous, or the suspension and fine was frivolous. I I have an issue, and it still hasn't been addressed. Why are we allowing each team to bring 12, 14 balls to the game? Basketball doesn't. Baseball doesn't. Hockey doesn't, right? There is a standard issue game ball that is put out there, right? It should be league specifications. If it's 15 psi, if it's 13 psi, whatever it's league sanctioned, right? Here is the game ball. The referees have a bag of 10. They're the ones in charge of it, right? And maybe I would allow the kickers to kind of scuff it up. Maybe. But I don't even think at that. You got a game ball. Let's go. Here's one ball. If you can't kick this ball, then maybe you shouldn't be kicking. Right? Because you think about it, the guys that are still struggling to get in the Hall of Fame, they didn't have scuffed up balls.
Right.
Right? And we're talking about some of the best kickers ever, right? But now we're kicking 60-yard field goals. Well, what are you doing? Right? Not throwing any shade, but I'm just asking.
They're putting nitrogen in the footballs.
It very well could.
Right? Think about it. You put nitrogen in a football.
Very well could. Right? You tell this guy, go knock this out, right? They're not taking it out and detecting what kind of fill is in the ball, right?
Hashtag take flight. Listen to what I said, nitrogen. Come on.
Uh-oh. It's coming down.
We can't kick field goals, so we need some type of advantage.
It's coming down on the Jets, the investigation, the leak. You heard it first here on OW Sports.
If the Jets go from last in field goal percentage to number one in field goal possession, check the nitrogen in the footballs.
Dude, you are about to get banned as a Jets fan from the Jet organization. We're going to see you on like Extra or 30 for 30. The man who took down the Jets. Woody Johnson sitting there. I don't know what happened. Right? Some guy in Kansas just goes out talking about nitrogen, and now Congress wants to investigate what's in the ball. Right? This is how it all started. And it goes back to Rich Kotite. Rich Kotite.
Oh, my God. There was a fighting word you bring that name up.
Weed Eubank was the first one to put in nitrogen.
Hey, we did kick 3 field goals in that Super Bowl.
How do you think you won the game? How do you think you won it wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't have happened. You're the guy. You're going to have to look yourself in the mirror.
Oh, I can look at all day, baby. All day, baby.
All right. So now it's time for the exhibition game. All right. That is what
Super Bowl
is what I affectionately call it, the exhibition game. And for this week, well, probably the last 20 minutes of the show, I will call it the Super Bowl. Okay. And again, I do send out a challenge to Roger Goodell. Come get me, because I'm calling it the Super Bowl. One of the dumbest things out there is where they try to censor everybody from calling it the Super Bowl, right? That's your game. Allow people to advertise on your behalf calling it the Super Bowl, right? People will call it before the game and after the game the Super Bowl. But we have two teams in here, Stevie D, that maybe from the Rams' perspective, right? Just because you have Aaron Donald, and then they made the move to bring in Matthew Stafford, traded Jared Goff, and everybody looked at that as an upgrade with a question mark, right? Nobody was completely sold on Stafford. Then midseason, they make the trade for OBJ. They bring in
Von Miller came in first.
Or Von Miller, then OBJ. And you look at that team and you say, this is a win at all costs right now. All the draft picks are gone, right? If you look at the mock drafts and you look for the Rams, they're nowhere to be found. Don't even show up, right? And then on the other side of the ball, you almost have like this upstart type team, right? I know the Bengals have been around. They've been mired in mediocrity for so long, right? You bring in Joe Burrow. He gets hurt. You're not sure how he's going to come back. We talked about the draft, where everybody had him get in Penny Sewell because Burrow got hurt, and they defy everything. the draft falls their way. Jamar Chase, one of the outstanding wide receivers on the board, but just so happened to be Joe Burrow's guy when they were in school, right? As they were winning the national championship, he was throwing to his guy who knows him. And they say, yeah, we'll bring him in, right? The season starts, and you don't know how things are going to go, and Chase is dropping everything. We know that there were factors leading up to that. And they just kind of very pedestrian-like went through the regular season, right? Little ebbs and flows. It was nothing that was earth-shattering, and you really didn't get a pulse that they were going to go all the way, right? And then things started to click, but you're still not sure. Even as they clicked, they had a game, Stevie D. They gave up 9 sacks. Who wins a game giving up 9 sacks?
The Cincinnati Bengals, baby.
For sure.
That's when Penny Sewell's like, you should have drafted me.
And right after he says that, Jamar Chase catches like an 80-yard bomb going down the, right? So that's who we have in the final, right? In my heart of hearts, I really do believe the Bengals are almost like a team of destiny. I get that sense that they can keep up with the Rams offensively and probably be more explosive than the Rams offensively.
Well, when you say the team of destiny, the NFL as a whole, when you're talking about parity and you're talking about rebuilds and you want to give fan bases hope, this is the team that's got to go win the Super Bowl, to give those teams that have been in mediocrity that can turn it around quickly. And yes, you can win a Super Bowl. So I think that's, it's a good story to have in the NFL every X amount of decades. You got to have something like that where a team just comes out of nowhere.
This is rigged?
No, I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm just saying you need it. Come on, man. What are you trying to do to me today?
Are you saying Roger set this up?
Knowing him, anything's possible, right? But from a fan base, you go from 2 to 4 wins, and now all of a sudden you're in the Super Bowl and you win it, and it just gives teams that are not very good or in that rebuild, they're like, wow, that can't happen. I think it's why you're saying this. I know that right. The Jets won 2 games 2 years ago. They won 4 games this year, and we're going to the Super Bowl next year, baby. Yeah.
With old age, you're a little slow on picking up stuff. It just dawned on me. I know where it's going with this.
So everything comes back to the Jets. No, I'm not a Matthew Stafford fan. Just never was with him in Detroit. I don't want him to win this game. I don't want the Rams to win this game. I don't want to see him and his wife on the football field celebrating it. I don't want none of that. I want the Cincinnati Bengals all day, every day, today, on Sunday. I hope Stafford throws 3 picks and has an awful game.
Would be interesting if OBJ was hoisting the Super Bowl trophy. The state rival would have something to say. Would they look at Baker Mayfield and say, Baker, we thought you were better than Stafford?
Well, Stafford is better than Mayfield. I just don't like Matthew Stafford. I just don't like him. I don't know. His face, I don't know. There's something about him. I just don't like him.
So here's what I'll say. As a Buffalo Bills fan, I need the Rams to win all day. All day long.
Why?
I can't have Cincinnati getting an exhibition title before my Bills.
Oh, that's right, because you got the goose egg still.
Yeah.
All right, I see where you're going with it. All right.
So from that perspective, I'm pulling for the Rams, but I do think Cincinnati's going to win this. If I had to go to Vegas, which I'm going to stay away from, caution tape, right? But if I had to go to Vegas and put something down, I would put it on Cincinnati. I like everything that they're doing, and their defense is starting to step up. Right?
They're balanced defensively. I like their safeties. I like their secondary. Their linebacker, their middle linebacker is good. They got a good front four, Hubbard and Hendrickson that they picked up as the edge. Wilson is the middle linebacker.
And it's kind of a rebuilt defense too, right? And it's rebuilt with not, we'll call blue chip, right? Blue chip you always equate to in college, but it's not the blue chip, but it's a good fit. It's a good mesh. And it teaches you something. You don't have to go out there and spend, gobs of millions of dollars to bring in that highly coveted. You find the guys that are the right fit that can come in and have the same mentality that you as the coach or the coordinator are trying to preach, right? I saw that in Buffalo with Hyatt and Poyer, right? These guys weren't commanding the mega deals, but they came in, they solidified a position, they followed, they agreed, and they lead, right? And same thing is happening in Cincinnati.
To me, the Rams will win if they get to Joe Burrow. That front four has to bring the pressure and run all day long. To me, that's the key to the game. If the Rams cannot pressure Joe Burrow, they're in trouble.
Now, you're saying if they can protect Joe Burrow. That's what you're saying.
I think the Rams' success is that front four. They have to get to Joe Burrow.
You're saying that as if it's not a definite. We're talking about Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald by himself can beat the five guys up front.
I'm just saying, in order for the Bengals to win, they have to stop the Rams.
You're saying it's not going to happen because they're not stopping that line. They are not stopping.
I don't want to talk about it because then that Stafford gets the ring.
I feel bad for Burrow from that perspective, right? You're looking at 99 across from you, right? And then
I'd screen it all day long. I'd use leverage the screen as best I can. Maybe some wide receiver screens or bubble screens or whatever.
A screen doesn't stop Aaron Donald.
It does. It will.
He'll tackle you for a 2-yard gain.
On the other side,
after knocking Burrow,
I throw it to the other side. Throw it to the other side.
And Von Miller's going to be standing right there. Oh, they have. I'm not going to say they have no chance because again, they overcame 9 sacks, right? But I do see the Rams defense being that much more stronger, ready, disciplined, and oh, by the way, it's at home. But I will say this.
At home? What does that mean?
I will say this. Right. When we talk about this is probably one of the worst home field advantages that there ever could be, right? Because you just pile in fans but again, maybe this is their advantage, right? Maybe Cincinnati's thinking, oh, we're playing in their stadium. Their fans are going to be there. So, they're working on silent counts. They're working on everything else, right? Expecting all these fans. And then they're going to get there and it's going to be quiet. And they're not going to understand. Benefit for the Rams. They're used to this, right? They already know how to handle the opposing fans in their stadium. They're good. They're completely good. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before. But, yeah, so if in all fairness, I'll put a number on the table. I do think the Bengals will get probably 17 points. But I think at the end of the day, the Rams are going to get 34. That's me really, really pushing for that. And the only reason I'm giving that prediction is because I do not want Cincinnati to win. And I know it could get ugly quick, and Stafford could fold and wilt like a lily. So, what do you got on a CVD? I got 34-17.
Well, I have 31-17, but I don't like it because you came out first and said 34-17, but I had 31-17 Bengals. Sorry, bud.
See, we each have our reasons why we've picked on the other side. You really know the Rams are going to win, but because of your hatred for Stafford, you're going to take the Bengals. Because of my hatred.
I hate Stafford.
Because of my hatred for another team in the AFC to reach the pinnacle before my Buffalo Bills, I have got to go on the other side.
Yeah, see, your thing is a little different because I have one of those in my trophy case. So for me, it's a little bit different.
This is true.
Right. So it's a little different, but I just can't stand Stafford. I do not want to see him and his wife celebrating on the field.
Well, then turn it off. That's what I did after Kelsey came down in the corner of the end zone. I turned it off. I didn't need to see all that
Look,
nonsense.
I think Aaron Donald goes down as, will probably go down as in that what do you call it? The Rushmore defensive lineman, right? And you got to have that ring. You got to have that ring. Ask Dan Marino, right? He misses that ring, right? You got to have the ring.
Low blow.
Yeah,
you
I had
don't
to take
have to have the ring. You really don't.
I had to take the shot at Dan Marino. I'm sorry, Dan. Sorry, you weren't good enough, Dan. You were not good enough.
Yeah,
you were
you
not
don't have
good
to
enough.
have the ring, though, Stevie D. You keep saying
well,
it.
You know what, Dan Marino? But he couldn't get it done. He couldn't elevate his team to a championship. So, screw Dan Marino. He kissed a man in a movie.
Yeah, I don't know where the show is going, right? L came on talking about OWS After Dark. I guess we've reached that plateau because we're at 9 o'clock. And now we're talking about,
I can't stand Dan Marino. I just can't stand Dan Marino. I'm scarred, okay? You want me to say it? I'm scarred.
And he wanted to be a Jet coming out of school.
He did want to come out. He did want to be a Jet. He made it his life mission to make my life miserable because it just passed on him. Dan, I was 8 years old, Dan, at the time. You didn't have to embarrass me my whole life like that growing up.
Oh, well, Stevie D, that's going to put a bow on this one. I know we didn't dig as deep as we've done in the past, on the exhibition game, but that was because there was so much going on in the NFL. And there's, we called last week's episode the soap opera, right? This thing is going to stretch out. And to your point, when we were talking a little bit pre-show, this is probably the first, and I'll say it, Super Bowl week where there hasn't been the discussions about the game, right? Everybody's doing the same thing that we're doing. We're talking about the Alvin Kamaras. We're talking about the Pro Bowl and how bad it was. And then you get into talking about Washington, their team, the chaos. You're talking about Congress. You're talking antitrust. You're talking tax exempt. You could go on. And all of those conversations are consuming which should be the conversation about Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford, which should be, the rebirth of OBJ, midseason rebirth of OBJ, right? Cooper Kupp and everything that he did, right? All of these things should be front and center. Media day happened. You didn't hear anything, right? It's been so quiet. We're already at the midpoint. That is when things kind of wrap up, right? And everybody's making their predictions, and you're just waiting for the night before, right? 'Twas the night. And all of the nonsense under Goodell's watch has ruined this week. It really has. Yep. Now, for Lamar, he's going out Saturday morning, right, to continue the tradition. I could tell you after 28, I can't keep up with him. And maybe we'll have an episode, bring Lamar on to, again, it would have to be an OW Sports After Dark because let me tell you, some of the stories, they get wild. So, but again, thank you to everybody who helped participate, everybody who joined the show. We do thank you. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Always send us a note, send us a chat. We love to hear from you. We love the interactions, right? And some of the cool things that we're seeing is that more and more of you are tuning in and are watching. We see some of the numbers grow, and it's kind of fun, right? This is just two guys, just chopping it up. And it's kind of fun to see that you guys out there are participating with us, watching us. And that's really cool to know. Obviously, like-minded in sports and football, whether it be the Bills, whether it be the Jets, or just football teams in general. So, again, kudos to everybody out there. We thank you for that. So, for my co-host, Stevie D, I'm Vince, and we'll talk to you soon.